Can I just say, keep your texts and your calls coming on your views on what has happened in the Middle East over the weekend, and a kind of consensus emerging that you are with Donald Trump. And maybe you are not all buying into the rhetoric from Winston Peters that this is the most unstable time since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, for another perspective, much closer to what has been going on, and I'll just tell you, I tried to organise an interview with our next guest. We were going to do a pre-record on Friday or Thursday before I went off fishing. It didn't work out, and probably a good thing because it would have been somewhat out of date by now. We are joined now by Sharren Haskel. She is the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel. Where are you talking to us from, Sharren? Tel Aviv or Jerusalem?
Hi, good morning. I'm actually speaking from a city close to Tel Aviv, about half an hour, called Kfar Saba.
Okay. Look, thank you for taking the time in what is a very, I'm sure, dynamic situation for your country and for your government. First, in general, obviously, the strikes by the B-2s over the weekend were coordinated. The Israeli government knew about what was happening. What does the Israeli government say to America for the action it has taken over the weekend, an action that only they could take in a military sense?
Yeah, I think that President Trump and the American government has taken the role to protect and defend the free world. I think that's why they are considered the leader of the free world, because they don't just talk, but they actually take actions as well. Look, the Iranian threat is very well known to every single, leader around the world. This is the biggest funder of terrorism, the biggest destabilizer, and this is an existential threat, a double existential threat that was over the head of Israel. I mean, we're just the front line, but don't forget that when they chant death to Israel, and they mean it, they also chant death to America and death to the West. Their fight is against the way that we live. It's against freedom. It's against women's right, against the LGBTQ community, against freedom of religion. I mean, look on their oppression of their own people, and that's what they wanted for the entire world. Now, try and imagine a regime that murder and rape women just because they don't cover their head with nuclear weapon and what they're capable of doing. And so Israel went into this operation to defend itself on the 11th hour, the last minute, against a double existential threat, the nuclear military program and the ballistic missile program of Iran. And I think that with the capabilities of the United States and truly in a remarkable moment of moral clarity of President Trump, they were able to probably eliminate the nuclear program of Iran and take off, an existential threat over humanity.
Okay, so the nuclear program, and I presume this is the intelligence your government is over. The bunker, the enrichment is done, and the bunker busters have taken out the nuclear facilities. What then is the point of ongoing military action against Iran, Minister? What is the point then now of ongoing military or missile strikes or airstrikes?
So the first thing, we're still waiting on a full confirmation of the complete elimination of it. It may have just set it back in many, many years, but we're still waiting on a full confirmation. Beside that, the existential threat over Israel, and the plan for the annihilation of Israel is not just the nuclear program. And the nuclear program has what you would call different facilities and many operatives. So there's the enrichment facilities and the conversion facilities and the nuclear plant. But there's also the ballistic missile program. What you see now hitting and targeting civilian population, the bigger the better. That's the Iranian targets. These are ballistic missiles that are extremely powerful. They accelerated that program to try and produce almost 3,000 of them a year. They can reach Europe. This is not just a threat over Israel's head, but also, Europe and other countries as well. And so before we set the operation, we set a bank of target to make sure not just Israel, but humanity will be safe again and that Iran cannot pose an existential threat.
So,
This
so are
banks
you
of
telling
target
me
is
now,
in.
Minister, if we're looking for an end game for this war, it is in fact the removal of the current regime in Iran?
No,
Well, I
no, this
don't
is
see
not one
how
of the
you can
targets.
stop the existential threat you've just described if you have a regime that is dedicated as this regime is, to always, under any circumstances, pursuing that strategy, their military strategy. It means you need regime change for peace.
Look, Israel's capability is to take the power they have and the weapons they have to actually pose this existential threat over Israel, over Europe, over humanity. When we fought Hezbollah, which is also the army of Iran, and we reduced their power, we hit them really hard. The change of regime in Syria was a byproduct of the weakening of Iran in Lebanon. Okay, now this might happen, during this operation, but this is not one of the goals of our operations. Our goals of operation is to eliminate the double existential threat as we've defined it, the nuclear military program and the ballistic missile program. The way they were so advanced, we were working on the last hour. We understand the severity of that. We've seen them shipping those missiles also to other areas too, and the development of it. And so this is what we've set as the goals. And to eliminate it, we set the bank of targets, including the leadership of those military and terrorist programs, and including facilities, factories, warehouses. And so we need to make sure that this is eliminated.
All right. The large parts of the world, including this country, New Zealand, and Mr. Guterres from the United Nations, have said, let's give peace a chance. Let's negotiate something with Iran. Let's stop blowing each other up or shooting rockets at each other. Has Israel got anything to negotiate with Iran? Is there any point in that from Israel's point of view?
Well, we've tried it for years. I mean, for almost 20 years now, the international community have tried to negotiate with Iran, but Iran has been deceiving it, lying. Particularly in the last 3 months, the Americans have put major efforts to negotiation to try and find a diplomatic solution. We would prefer a diplomatic solution. We were only working when we saw that during those 3 months of negotiation, they've actually used it as a cover up to push time. And we saw how they actually accelerated both of these programs, the nuclear military program and the ballistic missile program. You need to understand right now, or before the operation started, they already produce a material that will suit almost 10 nuclear bombs. 3 of them were made in those 3 months of negotiations. So you can't be naive and continue this diplomacy that you've been doing for years, setting red lines, and Iran will go straight away into its nuclear military program. It will turn into another North Korea or other countries who are posing a serious threat. But this is something that when Iran is calling out in the open for our destruction, has a full plan that started on the 7th of October with its proxies, Hamas. We know our children are the front line. And so you're asking me to take that chance with another 2 months when we know that this whole operation is for a nuclear bomb and that my children will pay the price for it. I'm sorry, but we understand what's the price of it. We saw the 7th of October how they raped our little girls and burnt our people alive, murdered them brutally. That was the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. We know what it means when they say death to Israel, when they want to obliterate us. They mean it. And we cannot
Minister,
take that
this
risk of a mass
escalation of this
murder.
conflict, and I guess the casting aside of the illusion of the proxy war being waged out of Iran against your country, does taking it to this level mean, in effect, that the remaining hostages who are alive, and who knows what number, 20 people, that really there is little hope now with things having escalated to this level of getting them back? And are we past the point where the return of those hostages or the bodies of those who have fallen would stop or de-escalate this?